Hi, it's Michelle Lightworker, and welcome to part 2 of the series Enlightenment Activation. Today we're covering how judgments from ourselves, from others, from society can be activators, very powerful activators for our enlightenment. So hold on to your seats and get ready to share the journey with 6 individuals that I shared space with to talk about how they did just that.
Hi, I'm Deb Bullions. I'm 52 years old. I'm a psychic medium, meditation guide, and death doula. And currently I'm living in the Gold Coast of Australia. I was on a fast path career. I was really heavily into the corporate world, and I was kicking goals everywhere. And the more goals that I kicked and the more pressure that I took on, the prouder I felt. However, I felt emptier as well. And I was losing myself as I was creating this success in the corporate world. Through a lot of training, I began to realize that I should be working with spirit. But of course, my bank account said, "You're doing really well, girl. Keep going. Keep working in this corporate world." And I could feel my health ebbing. It was just draining out of me. And every time I went to get up to go to work, I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's just really, really killing me. And had talked with my beautiful husband about it as well. And he said, I know, but what are you going to do? You know, you've got to figure out a way out of this. And Spirit was giving me ways out. Spirit was telling me, and I was ignoring Spirit because I was coming from a fear-based place of, well, I've got to earn this money. This is what the family depends upon. If I leave this, what will happen to me? And finally, in my last year before leaving that role, I encountered a disruptor, somebody who came in and everything that I did was wrong. They were really coming hard up against me, every move that I made. And of course, I was getting frustrated. I was confused. I was in between fight and flight mode. And I knew Spirit was counseling me and telling me it was time to go. And I didn't listen. So eventually, all of the work, all of the hours, all of the stress, and all of the difficulty led to me basically not being able to get out of bed one morning. I ended up in the hospital. I ended up with heart problems that I'd had for a while, but they were really heightened. I ended up with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Hashimoto's. Basically, I had a breakdown of my sympathetic nervous system. So all of these autoimmune diseases hit in a single day, and I was unable to move. I was physically unable to go back to work. And I looked at the stories of people that this had happened to, and most of them had surrendered and given into pharmaceuticals, although there was no pharmaceutical cure. And I made a conscious decision working with Spirit that that was not going to be my story. I was not going to spend the rest of my life in bed, drugged up on medications to help with the pain, and began my work with Spirit for them to help heal me. And we're almost 2 years from that point now. And I've just come back from a month in Italy where I walked 10 to 15 Ks a day with very little pain. Complete opposite story to those who wouldn't open their hearts to healing and wouldn't believe and trust in Spirit and their own capabilities and gave in. I've healed. And I'm now working with Spirit, and that's what I do now as a living. I finally listened to them and opened myself up to being of service to other people. And positivity, I believe, is what brought me back from all of the conditions that, yes, I still live with. However, I am living. Whereas I think a lot of other people who haven't reached out, dug deep and understood how they may have contributed to their own downfall have perhaps not had that same experience. And I'm here to help people understand that it can work and you can heal, and Spirit is there to help us.
Hi, my name is Amy Young. I'm 34 years old and I live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Australia. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a writer as well. Judgment for me was that 5 or 6 years ago, I actually started having really crippling anxiety to the point that I couldn't leave the house. I was that nervous. I couldn't go anywhere. I was so anxious. It was really hard for me to go to work. It was really hard for me to talk about it with people. I saw doctor after doctor and I had test after test, and it was such a long journey. Back then, when I was first diagnosed with anxiety, it was one of those things that not many people really knew about it. It was just sort of coming out to the forefront where people were kind of hearing that this was something that people were experiencing, because it displayed so many symptoms to the point that I was actually fainting and I had low blood sugar, and it really was affecting my physical body. It wasn't just in my head, which was the persona that everyone thought anxiety was at the time. And I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed to tell my family and friends that this is what I had. I thought they were going to think I was crazy. I was so afraid of their judgment of me that it got worse. My anxiety got so much worse, and I really didn't know how I was going to deal with it. I remember one day just walking around in circles, and I came across a sign in one of the main streets where I lived, and it pointed up to a person who was doing some psychic readings. It was so lovely. Like, she talked me through so much, and it wasn't really about just seeing what was in my future. It was more, she sort of helped me understand what was going on spiritually as well. So I signed up in a spiritual healing course, which taught me all about meditation and mindfulness, but most importantly, it really taught me about going within and learning to trust myself. And it was through this course that I actually realized, I had the answers on how to heal myself were actually inside. Sometimes we really think that people will think so bad of us, or they're thinking certain things about us, but really we don't really know what they are thinking of us. It was really just my perception of what I thought they were, because I was judging myself. I was thinking that I was crazy and that something was wrong with me, not the other way around. So it's funny how something that we feel at the time is such a burden can actually turn into a precious gift and help. It was thank you to myself thinking that these people were judging me, that I guess that I really didn't know what to do, and it was my last straw and I needed to turn to something. And it was my spiritual connection again that really started to heal me. So I changed my diet. I became more mindful. I learned to really relax and slow down and really be in the present moment. And because of that, I was able to heal the anxiety that I had been going through. Anxiety is such an amazing thing, really. It's not just thoughts, it's also the condition of your physical body, and it's also could be things in your past or spiritual things. It could be a lot of things that drive us to our body getting to the point where it's saying, hey, something's not right. And it was the anxiety was the trigger that got me really to learn to delve back into myself.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Carricarte-Jones. I am 38 years old, and I'm currently in the state of California, where I was living for the past year with my husband, who is Australian. And we are traveling around the United States in our RV right now, spreading our message with Hug Your Chaos of healing and enlightenment, where we help other people to walk through their shadows and hug their chaos and embrace all aspects of their life so they too can live their most authentic and abundant life. Something we talk a lot about is judgment from experience. Personally, I lived a very long time as a harsh judge of myself, and I found that this really amplified and mirrored out to my experiences with the world. Because I was so judgmental on myself, I found that I was constantly in very harsh judgment of other people. And as I came to a state of balance and healing, and I embraced a more of a spiritual path in life, I started to find that as my judgments of myself went down, I came to accept myself in wholeness, I was much less judgmental of other people. And an interesting experience that happened, you know, in the days, much of what my husband and I do is on social media and online. So I tend to see a very real trend in people being very almost ruthless with what they will put out there on social media when they're able to hide behind a keyboard. And one aspect of my life is I am a recovering drug addict. I suffered from, you know, a very deep drug addiction for 14 years. And I currently openly do share that information because I am 3.5 years in recovery from this affliction. And I believe part of sharing that is to give other people hope that there is other ways to live. So I wrote an article about my experience in this, and I was sharing it around social media, and someone wrote a very, what felt like a very harsh judgmental comment on one of the posts, talking about how, you know, what was the point of what I was sharing, that I would just end up high and back in a gutter eventually anyway. And it was like a knife to the heart for a second. I felt, you know, in that brief moment, I felt so judged and so stuck in a box. And my first response wanted to be anger. You know, my programming was to be like, F this and F her and, you know, screw this and she doesn't know me, and get defensive. And what happened was through the work I had been doing up until then, you know, breathwork practice and meditation practice, I was able to take a deep breath and I was able to pause. And it was one of the first real moments for me where I was able to see that what she was saying had nothing to do with me. It was just a huge blasting mirror of her own projections, and most likely something, you know, unhealed, a trauma or a wound within her, probably triggered by someone else who maybe was suffering from addiction. And I was just serving as a catalyst for her to see this wound. And being able to see that was just one of those moments that was like, wow. It really was a key transitional and pivotal point for me, because everything that I had been learning and studying, you know, informationally and in books and intellectually, was all of a sudden brought right down here to an experiential and, you know, heart level where I was living in it. And that, like in Zen Buddhism, they talk about, you know, you become the path. It was that moment for me. And you know, I even still get goosebumps talking about it now, because I'm able to touch back on that in those moments when, you know, we fluctuate and we feel judged, and I'm able to see that someone's judgment, it just doesn't have anything to do with me. And coming from the way that I grew up, so angry and closed off and just bitter and blaming and confrontational, the fact that I can see that, you know, total 180, 360 from where I once was is just, it's so beautiful. And it's such a testament to the path, because that's not me and my work, you know, that's the work of spirit that we're here to do.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm 17 and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. And my main job and career is being a tarot reader, and I'm all about giving you the spiritual guidance. So as I was growing up as a young person, I didn't understand what the whole schooling education really was. You know, I was just someone going through my whole life as growing up as a young adult. I understood, you know, the main concept of the whole schooling and education and everything like that. But when you start to come into your young adult life, especially going through high school, we as a person, we understand that it's important for us, but is it really important? I had to understand exactly who I was as a person and what I really needed to do. You know, growing up as being a victim for bullying, I had to really understand who I was at a deeper level, because all the negativity, all the complex, backstabbing and everyone criticizing you really put you down. And it's just made me not understand who I was as a person. For me, I found that my life growing up wasn't the best, because why? I was adapted to negativity. I was adapted to bullying because I was the fat kid. I was the kid that was a beast. Then I decided to step out with my whole spiritual self and, doing readings for people. And, there's a lot of constant negativity about that. You're not good at what you do. You're fake. You're a scam. And then when people are seeing that, you're doing something better for yourself, they decided to be quite negative. So when that negativity happens, we're just very uncentered, very unfocused, and we don't know where to go within our life. If anything, going through that darkness, going through that depression, and trying to find this brighter outlook was really difficult for me. And I couldn't find who I was, or essentially find who I was as a person. Had to find and understand who I was as an essential being, because we're all focused, we're all caught up, and we just don't understand who we are. With all the negativity and all the judgments, it really brought me down as a person. But, with the happiness and the positivity, and me actually realizing that I had to change my life, was a crucial and essential part for me to change and adapt. And that's how I stood out. Everyone, when I was growing up, I never had a lot of friends. I never had, anyone. But, my main goal and what I was brought up and what I was told is that I had to help people. And by following that guidance and following that direction of helping people really made me understand who I was as an essential person. As what I do now is, doing psychic readings and all that, I help people to heal. I help people to see their life and see their point of view. But it's also a reflection of my life as well. Because in order for me to do that, I need to heal, and I need to step forward and allow that to transform who I am as a person. In order for me to give guidance, I need to have been through everything. And I went through bullying. I went through anxiety. I had mild depression, because why? I had fear. I had illusions caught into my head that I was this, I was that. So when negativity is so caught up into your life, how do we see through the positive side? How do we move forward and see that there's a greater outlook of who we are today? We can all change the world. We can all be who we want to be. But realistically, we need to just be that person. We need to be fluent within ourselves and just trust in the universe that everything goes well for us. And that universe is going to guide you and help you. And that's what I truly said for me. My life as 11 years of being a victim of bullying taught me that, there's a bigger picture than depression. There's a bigger picture than, this area where you're just filled with, isolation. Like the tarot reference, the hermit. As a Virgo myself, I was the hermit. I was that. Scared to put myself out there. Scared to make a change, because why? That fear, the replay of events that Alex, you're this, or Alex, you're that. It's a time for us to speak out. It's time for us to be all connected. And that's what's important for us. So, don't worry about the negativity, because negativity is always going to be around there. But when you realize and you use your eyes to see that you've got a greater purpose, then that's your calling to step out and release the negativity.
My name's Sara Chance, and I do women's empowerment, and I'm also an aroma intuitive. About a week and a half ago, I was raped on 7/7/17, which is a very interesting date, at my healing center that I work out of. This wasn't the first time that I had been raped, but it was the most aggressive and by far the worst experience I've had in my life. I'm able to talk about it right now because I've been taking the steps to activate my enlightenment and to get to the next level of who I am. And I can see it all right now so clearly, that by taking these steps to face this, I am reclaiming my power. I'm empowering myself, and I am empowering others just by using my voice. I am not a victim. Yes, this happened to me for whatever reason. It's where I needed to be. It's not because I brought it upon myself, and there's no shame, but to really open this book up that I was terrified to open. So taking the steps by telling one person and then telling another person and then getting me to the hospital and doing the rape kit test and spending 20 hours with a detective and doing all the things and going over every tiny little detail and facing every tiny little fear that I didn't even know existed inside of me. Every step of this, I can feel strong. I feel stronger by every step that I'm taking. Even if I'm walking slow, if I'm feeling weak, I'm getting myself out of bed and I'm facing this head on, because I can feel it in my heart and in my soul that there's a purpose for this. There's a reason why this happened. So it's been really intense. But by me even just sharing with other people, I'm getting so many like positive reactions from women saying, oh my gosh, this happened to me. And they're having realizations like in their own lives, like looking at their own stories and saying, wow, this happened and I never acknowledged that. And that's why I was doing this. And so it's just that, you know, knowing that I am guided to be doing this. And I am so supported by other women right now. And even the men are showing up. There's men showing up. Even the detective that I'm working with, he like held my hand basically to take me to do the rape kit tests and just sat with me. And people are offering me healing services. And it's like, just by opening up and sharing this story with people, because it only happened like a week and a half ago, but for me to be sitting here, and I'm not at my full capacity and my strength, but I'm using my voice right now and sharing this out loud. And that is empowering. So this is just a big piece of my journey and what's to come for me, and just to be a support for other people, and for if anybody needs, you know, a voice and a support, I'm here, and I can feel that on every level. So thank you for hearing me.
Hello, I am Susie Beiler. I'm 40 years old. I live in Sedona, Arizona, and I guide people to their soul essence so that they can create their life from a place of alignment, even through the chaos that we experience on this planet. I actually had someone email me more than once, the same person, and tell me that if I accepted money for my spiritual services, that my heart would become black and all of these other things. I goodness, oh, money doesn't have that kind of power over me to change who I am. But so many people believe that. So time to flip the script, baby. I want to flip that script because so many people actually believe that money has that kind of power over them. And so my call is to empower yourself and know that you're more powerful than money. Money can't taint your heart. Money can't change who you are unless you let it, but you're more powerful than that. Judgments about spiritual teachers receiving money for their spiritual services in particular. This is a huge, massive healing that Lightworkers can do for themselves right now, because there are so many patterns, so many programs, so many judgments against spiritual information having a physical monetary compensation. And it has my fire lit because so many Lightworkers that I see that have so much wisdom to share, so much, spiritual juiciness to share, and they're, poor. They're in poverty because of these programs and belief systems about it's not okay to charge for spiritual services, you know, information that's available to everyone. Well, yes and no. You know, the spiritual information is available to everyone if you really want to search for it and look for it. And at the same time, to have someone who's been through the journey, who has the grounding, who's laid the foundation, who knows what it takes to move forward in your ascension, to guide you through it, that person deserves compensation. And because we use money as a form of compensation, it's perfectly fine. One of the reasons we have so much judgment about that is because a lot of light workers are sensitive empaths, and so they can feel the convolution of money. They can feel the restrictions and the suppression because we have a monetary system, because the people who have introduced money to us, those beings were using it for suppression and control and limitation. That doesn't mean that we have to use it that way. We can tune into the love aspect of money and use money to amplify love, use money to expand love, because money isn't all bad. It's polarity, just like everything else. It has the shadow side, it has the light side. So invitation for all light workers everywhere is to connect with the love of money, connect with the light of money, allow yourself to receive it, allow yourself to give it, allow there to be a flow. And this is what is going to create heaven on earth. This is what's going to create the shift when we take back our power and stop the judgments about it, stop judging other people who have money, stop judging yourself if you don't have money, just drop the judgment and allow there to be a flow of money. And then when you've integrated money in that way and it becomes a neutral for you, then we can begin creating a society where we don't need it at all. But first you have to know your value and worth and what you would even contribute to a society without money. It's really important for all of us light workers right now to get on board and change the way we think about these things so that we can change this planet.
So, what did you think? I'm sure listening to these stories, we can all relate to those feelings of disempowerment, of allowing ourselves to assume that we're being judged by someone else, society, and then realize, hang on a second, do I feel this way about myself on some level? What is the bigger picture for us? What is our essence? What are we meant to learn out of this situation? No matter how traumatic it presents itself, there's always an opportunity for activation of our enlightenment and our empowerment. I always like to say, open-mindedness is a powerful key to our success in overcoming the judgments of ourselves and others. Keeping an open mind helps us to step out of judgment of ourselves and other people and find the true learning of a situation, the true lesson. An open mind leads to an open heart, and an open heart heals the world.